Hey, welcome. So we're going to look at how to create subcircuits in Multisim because this is a handy little tool just to get your schematics out and all the pins that you need and have the option to connect to it in Multisim, right? Because these give you the option to go for inputs and outputs and to name your pins. So we're going to look at how to do that. For one, this right here is the component itself. It moves around just like a component. You can name this name over here, so you can right click and rename if you want to rename that component name on there. Otherwise it's going to show component 1 down here. This is a name also. I can right click in properties and change this name here. This is called the ref des. So if I don't want two names, right, if I wanted to name component 1 my CS7000 and put something else in here, you can make this label anything you want. If you want to make it something more generic like microprocessor or something that you're going to instantly be familiar with, or its part number, something like that. Or you can remove it. You can go into display and click to not show the ref des, and then it would remove it from there. Right, so you can set these up in a couple of different ways. When you click into the component, you can double click on the component itself and that'll open up its properties. Otherwise you have to click on the component on the sidebar here and it'll pull it in. And here we've got pin 1 over here. We see that pin 1 was on this side here. This component's not linking. And then we have this other one over here, which is the second pin. And you can double click on this and we can call it out pin 1. There's no spaces, but that gives us output pin. Right? And now we see out pin 1. And you can list as many as you need to. So if you do have a secondary pin, you can just create another one. You can place schematic hierarchical pin and rotate it and place it down, right? And then you can name this one also and call it output pin 2. Out pin. Right. And that will give you 2 of them on there. And so when you see it, look back here, you can see that there's pin 1 and pin 2, and then an input pin on the other side. Same deal with the other side. You can just put in pin 2. Watch out for copying and pasting. Sometimes copying and pasting messes some of these up, but you can do it on this far side here. We'll just call it pin 2. Right. And that should update it on both sides, right? So you can make any component that you need to. You can put as many pins on there if you need to. Technically, you can build things inside of this also. So if you are looking to build a little low pass filter or something like that, I've built them inside of these subcircuits and use them to simplify my output, where now I just have like a low pass filter written in with an input and an output, and then when they click into it, it becomes way more complex with the whole filter on the inside. So this thing is called a subcircuit, and so we can right click, place schematic, and go down to new subcircuit, which is Control B if you want to use that. And then it'll give you the request for the name. So we named the last one component 1. We'll name this one component 2. You can name it whatever you want, whatever fits with your name. This is how it pops out, right? And you see it's named SC1. It's listed over here. So you can put your part numbers in this little SC1 area and it'll show it over here. Even if you don't show it on the diagram, you still see it on the sidebar over here, as that's the name of that one, right? And component 2 has no pins. When we double click in, you can, I said, adjust that one, and then we can click over here and adjust the actual file. The magnifying glass will center your file there. With this one, you can right click, place schematic, and then place any of your connectors over here. You can try out some of these other connectors. I usually do the hierarchical connector. You can do a bus also if you're doing like a ground connection. Global connectors also on page connectors, but I usually just go with this one over here. Right click, schematic, and then hierarchical connector. And I like to Control R this before I drop it, just in case it tries to place on the wrong side. Because if you drop it just as a normal pin, it'll stack it over here, and then if you try and rotate it, it won't actually move it to the other side. So when you go to place a pin and put it on this side, get a new pin and place it and rotate it while it's in the air. Control R until you get it to the spot you want it. And then you can place it down. Right? Otherwise, it'll try and just put it on the side with the other pin. But that is how we do that, right? And so when we go back into our main design, we now have a second component. It now has its 4 pins. And we can add more if we want to. We can make this a lot quicker now that we've got 2 pins out there. You can just highlight them, copy, Control-C, Control-V, and start pasting them in there. So if you've got like 16 pins you want to name out, you can put them all in there and it'll show it on your diagram. Right? So play with these. These ones are a great way to kind of incorporate those components that you can't find in Multisim and still get all of the access to the transistors, the resistors, capacitors, and all that base stuff. But they will not function, right? They won't function as a actual component. You can't code them. You can't simulate the circuit with them because there is no connection between them. But it is a good solution. So let me know if you have any other questions.